So Ted, you just celebrated 25 years working here at Cool Spring, but I understand that's not where you started out in your career. Do you mind speaking to that for a moment?
Yeah, interesting story because I started right out of college in the commercial real estate industry, and that was an interesting time in my life. I love that work, and worked for a number of companies around Richmond. I guess it was sometime in the mid 1990s, though, that I started to feel God's call on my life, drawing me away from the business world and more into full-time ministry. Now, I'm a firm believer that everybody, all of us, are full-time ministers. We minister where we are. But I guess this call was more of a vocational call that maybe I needed to be in ministry with a Christian organization full-time. It was around that time that I think Pastor Larry here at Cool Spring kind of recognized that in me. I was a member of the congregation and very much involved in the life of Cool Spring Church, serving in various capacities here. Larry kind of took me to lunch one day and we had a nice conversation, and he said he kind of recognized that God was doing some things in my life and drawing me close to him. And Larry explained that it was a great time, exciting time in the life of Cool Spring Church, that they were going to embark on a very ambitious building project. That was what we call now the 2002 building, and that's the gym and the rec center and the worship center and the fellowship hall expansion. And he said, your background in real estate will help us with that. And he said, I know you care about people and love folks and really seem to get along well with senior adults. So he said, well, I think we can kind of merge those two and have you do some care ministry and some service ministry as well. So this was a big step for me. I was leaving the business world, in which I was very comfortable, had been there a long time, and prayed about it and talked to my family, wife Susan, and the family about it, and everybody thought that they could see God's hand in this. So I guess it was 1998, I came on full-time staff here. Somebody had mentioned a phrase that kind of stuck with me because I felt a little inadequate. I didn't have all of the training that many other people that are in full-time vocational ministry have. But the saying that I kind of relied on is that God doesn't always call the equipped, but in fact sometimes he equips the called. And that's what I kind of felt, that even though I was not really up to speed on what a lot of people in full-time ministry that have had long, illustrious, careers, that I was being obedient to God's call on my life, and that I could learn. And I was an eager learner. I wanted to learn everything I could, and I took lots of courses and seminars and went to things that would enhance my ability to minister better.
So I do have a question for you. Are you the first person in your family to go into the ministry?
Another interesting question. I'm actually the second generation of it. It skipped one. My granddaddy Tussey, after a pretty rocky start into life, I understand, Granddaddy Tussey not only was redeemed by God's saving grace, which we all experience and know well, but Granddaddy Tussey was also called into the ministry full time. He started off as a Methodist circuit rider, and so that skipped a generation down to me. I used to always think about that and say, Granddaddy would probably be pretty proud of Ted kind of following in his footsteps on that. I was relating this story at lunch one day to the son of some church members, and because he was interested in me, asking about how I got in the ministry and got started, and I told him that story about Granddaddy Tussey being a circuit rider. Well, a few months later, I came in from lunch one day, and I found a piece of artwork. This beautiful shadow box was in my chair at my desk. And it didn't have any note on it. It didn't have any name. And I wondered, where did this come from? And it just looked pretty. It's a picture of a guy on a horse and a house in the background with a little smoke coming out of the chimney and a crow flying by. Well, a long time passed, and I put it up and looked at it every day. Long time passed. And his mother asked me one day, did you get the shadow box that our son fixed for you about a circuit rider? And I said, I had no idea he did that. And she said, well, the title of it is Nobody At This Time of Morning Except Circuit Riders and Crows. And I really enjoyed seeing that, and I have it in my office now. So that kind of helps me to reflect back on Granddaddy's days, and I guess I'm kind of walking in his footsteps.
So tell me a little bit about what things were like here at Cool Spring when you came on. You said 1998. Yeah. Must have been an exciting time.
It was. Things were quite a bit smaller than they are now. We didn't have that 36,000 and some odd square foot addition over there. We didn't have nearly the ministries and the programs that we have now. It was so much fun watching that building come up. It started in June of 2000. It was delivered in the spring of 2002. We had some complications there, and it kind of got strung out a little bit. But it was so neat being part of that opening of that new building. At that time, watching Upward basketball get started, and just the many families in our area that would come in with their kids on Saturday and play basketball, and the kids just had a ball. We so enjoyed ministering to them, and like we do now with Compass, we have a devotion at the halftime, and people took part in that, and that seemed to be a meaningful thing, which really tied in well the spiritual side of who we are along with the athletic side. So that worked really, really well. Oh, and over the years, we've just seen the facilities used to the maximum with various groups coming in, Bible study groups, and many others, the AA and NA and those groups. And it's so neat to have a facility that is used extensively and that we can offer to the community.
That's wonderful. So 25 years, you must have some really great stories, and you must have some pretty hard stories. Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, they're just like everything else in life. They're highs and lows and ups and downs, and this 25 years has been that. Many highlights. We just don't have time that I could go through all that. Just seeing people's lives change, seeing people who didn't even know it, that God loves them and has a plan for their life, and just seeing that light go off, and they get connected with God in a personal way to form that personal relationship that he wants so very, very much. But I will say that probably the highlight of the 25 years has been the opportunity that I had to baptize my 3 grandchildren, Casey, Sarah, and Drew, right up here in the baptistry. And it just, at that point in my life, I said, could life get any better? It was wonderful. In ministry, there are lows too, and we get to deal with families in the middle of crisis, deaths in families, families splitting up. As unfortunate as all those are, it's just part of life. And so it's a good thing that we are in a position here at Cool Spring to help our families when those kind of things happen. So they're kind of low points, because even though we are ministering and helping, we take on some of that grief and some of that heartache and heartbreak that the family has. I would say that the really low point, and the point that I felt the most pain in trying to help family members, was the tragic death of little 3-year-old Kristen Grote in August of 2004. Kristen was the daughter of one of our staff members and ministers here at Cool Spring, and it's just a low point for all of us to have to go through that and suffer that pain along with that precious family. But as it worked out, we were able to minister with so many people, not just the full-time ministers here, but the church family was able to minister in such a wonderful way to that family at their darkest hour. So while those are low points, there are also some good things that certainly come from them.
That's great. So reflecting back on 25 years here at Cool Spring, it all started with a calling on your life, and you wrestling with what that calling was. Now reflecting back, do you have any words of wisdom to share about God and the way He calls us into things that we might not be expecting?
Well, yeah, God is just always faithful, and especially when we seek Him. And I would just encourage all of us to constantly be seeking Him for direction and wisdom and guidance. He knows us so much better than we ourselves know us. And He's not going to take us down the wrong path. He's going to lead us properly where we should go. But I think He puts some of that responsibility on us too, to seek Him. The Bible tells us that we should seek Him in all of our ways. And so that's something that I've tried to do over these years. Sometimes I do a pretty good job at it. Sometimes there's lots of room for improvement. But nonetheless, I think just to be aware of and have our antenna up, so to speak, for God leading us in some direction or some calling.